Welcome. I am so excited to be here, of course. I am going to talk to you today about the three lessons I wish I would have learned about childbirth. If this is your first time catching me, my name is Stephanie Toole. I am the founder of Birth Prep Academy, where we help pregnant women prepare for their first hospital birth. So, again, welcome, welcome. I am super excited to be with you today. And I always say another day, another episode. We again are going to be talking about the three lessons I wish I would have learned about childbirth. This is definitely pulling from what I know and my experience, um, especially going through with my son. He is now in ninth grade. So there's been a lot of time in between there. Um, and so not only am I going to be pulling from my experience, but also from the experience of clients and just what I've learned while coaching these clients of mine to transition into motherhood. So, before we jump into the episode, I want to remind you that I have a free PDF guide, Pack My Hospital Bag in the Next 60 Minutes. It is listed where you're viewing this video. So make sure that you click the link. You can also just go directly to birthprepacademy.com/hospital bag. Again, that's birthprepacademy.com/hospital bag. And you can get that as a free download. Also in the description, in the link in bio, if you're over on Instagram, um, there is a Black Friday waitlist, y'all. I got some things cooking up. So make sure that you hop on the wait list or download the PDF. However, you are connected with me, you just don't want to miss out. Okay. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's hop into today's episode of the things I wish I would have known about birth. So, the thing about, I guess, what spurred today's episode is the fact that so many people, including myself, my clients, myself, we always, I look back on being pregnant, especially for the first time. And the thing about it is, because you've never experienced it, you have no idea what you don't know, right? That's with anything. When you don't know something, you have no idea that you don't know it. Um, because you've not yet experienced it. So you don't have that knowledge, right? And so, with that being said, that's why I feel like doing this is so important, because if I can help someone who's coming along to just kind of look out for certain things, then of course just it makes it worth a while. It makes everything purposeful, to be able to reach out and help another uh, mom going through, especially preparing for the first time, giving birth for the first time. So, with that being said, the very first lesson that I wish I would have known, or that I had learned before I had to give birth, um, is to educate myself. So, when I was pregnant, my doctor's office had a class where my husband and I, we went, it was like on a Saturday, for the morning. So like from 9 to noon or 9 to 1, something around there. And we spent the day there with the nurse, and she took us through um, a lot of wide ranging things. I remember specifically like how to change a diaper and, you know, feedings and stuff like that, but nothing that was pertinent. And for whatever reason, even after going through that particular class, I still felt unprepared. When I look back on my own birth experience, there were some things that I definitely missed out on because I just wasn't properly prepared. So having that class, I did, take the class. Again, it was one Saturday for a few hours, but I just didn't know what I didn't know. Um, Now that I'm talking about it, I remember also that the nurse went over like a lot of nutrition stuff, things that I should be eating while I was pregnant and things like that. So, and things to stay away from, of course. So that was covered in there, but it was wide ranging. It covered a lot of things, and there just wasn't. I didn't properly prepare me for childbirth, I feel like. So, yeah, I wish I would have educated myself. In hindsight, now I think I know that that is a big reason why I do what I do, because I know how impactful it would have been to have um, a connection with someone like myself where I could, get reliable, trusted information, and then someone willing to walk me through that process so that I could be prepared for what it is that I was getting ready to experience for the first time. So looking back, I definitely would have educated myself by, and I want to be specific here. So I would have taken a childbirth class, and I would have definitely taken a breastfeeding class. Now, let me break it down why those two specifically. And then I would have taken a class to prep to help me prepare. So those three classes, I want to break it down specifically of why I feel like that's necessary. It's necessary for the childbirth because I didn't understand the full process. Along the way in my journey, I had picked up a lot about what I knew about the process from different sources. So, websites here or there, a few YouTube videos here or there, but nothing that was succinct, nothing that really kind of pulled everything together for me. I did not have that. And so while I knew bits and pieces about childbirth, I really didn't understand the process of having a baby, what birth is like, how it happens, what to expect, things that or scenarios that could possibly arise, and how to, work through that. I didn't really understand it in its totality. And so that's why I feel like having a childbirth class is super important. You need to be able to understand the terminology, when the doctors, the nurses, the midwives are coming in to perform certain procedures, or when they are suggesting certain things, you need to be well informed about how to what it means, and how you would like to work through that. And the reason why that's so powerful, I actually was just having texting a conversation with one of my friends who was asking me my opinion on a current news event article, um something that had happened where something had happened to the mom in this particular case. And, I shared my opinion that that is one of the fundamental beliefs of why I believe having a childbirth class, having a childbirth professional, having access to someone like that is so vitally important, because you will learn what the process is. And because you understand the terminology, the process, how everything works, you have the ability, you are now empowered to advocate for yourself. So it's very powerful. It's not just about knowing it, so you can feel like you could pass a test on it. No, no, no. It's much more important to learn it so that people aren't talking above your head, and or have a familiarity with like what something is, what a procedure is, and how it works, how it might affect you, how it might affect the baby, things like that. And having that knowledge will allow you to again advocate for yourself, and that is so hugely important. I cannot stress that enough. So, So yeah, having a childbirth class is important. Having a birth prep class is important. There are things that you need to do to prepare yourself, your home, everything for your birth and for the arrival of the baby and for postpartum and your recovery. Like there are things that you need to make sure are done as you prepare to give birth. And you don't know that if it's your first time. You just muddle through it and then, struggle with all of this, overwhelm from not knowing it. And then you just try to figure it out in the meantime. But having a birth prep course, something that will help you, and let me be even more specific and say I'm not just talking about a birth prep course that helps you maybe learn how to uh, get your body ready for labor. Those are important as well. But the type of course that I'm talking about is exactly what I created in Bump to Bundle Blueprint, which literally walks you through step by step how to prepare for your maternity leave. Like, do you have everything in order? And the way that we do that for our clients is we've identified areas where women typically struggle, and we've mapped it out for you so that you can prepare those areas, and then after birth, you're able to recover or have a positive birth and postpartum because you were prepared, because things were, taken care of ahead of time. And so it allows you to rest, recover, and just be present in the moment of birth and becoming a mommy. So birth prepping is again vitally important. You don't even realize it's important until you get to that crossroad and you're trying to figure out everything like on the fly. Y'all, it ain't pretty. It is not pretty. Um, okay, so the last uh, education mm, type of class that I would have really focused on and tried to, have more knowledge about is breastfeeding. And this is something that all of them like are just fundamentally important, and it's almost hard for me to choose, but I do have a special place about breastfeeding in my heart because it is like the benefits are just so overwhelming that if you are healthy and able to do it, and if your baby is healthy and able to receive it, it is literally the gift that keeps on giving. Like there's there's no question that when they call it liquid gold, like how valuable it is for your baby and even you. There are benefits for you. And so knowing how important it is, I would have spent more time um focusing on that in the before getting to the hospital and having the baby. Why? Because in the hospital the nurses were nice, they assisted and supported where they could, but they're only there for a certain amount of time because of shift change, right? You're not their only patient. Oftentimes, they have other moms that are on the floor that are also giving birth, and so they're attending to each one of you, right? And so their time to really start from scratch and take you through each step is very limited. And it is so much more helpful to have a starting point on your own so that once you give birth, they're just coming in to assist and support, not really to start from scratch. And with me it was the opposite. I got there and I knew that I wanted to breastfeed. I knew it was important to breastfeed, but I missed out on really optimizing how to do it and how to start off well, because I just struggled with it because there was no knowledge, no previous knowledge of exactly what the steps are and how to get started and things like that. So I would definitely um, invest in childbirth education. birth prep and breastfeeding classes. And yeah, I would encourage every mom. It is worth the investment. I say this, I said it on my last video. Like, even if you choose not to, you know, um, take advantage of the courses that I have available, my bundle, that's fine. Like, just make sure that you take the time to learn the information and to hopefully be able to invest with someone who can teach it and be able to answer whatever questions you might have regarding it, because it's worth it. And you don't even realize how much it's worth it until you get there and you have to go through it, like I did. So that is definitely one of the lessons that I learned, and that I would have, you know, done a better job at um, utilizing if I had known ahead of time. Number one. Number two, I'm looking at my notes here, guys. Number two, I would have prepared for my maternity leave and my postpartum in a very different way. So, by preparing, a lot of the preparing that I did was all focused on the baby. So, of course, what would I need for the baby to come home? And a lot of that, was focused around the baby registry or the baby shower and getting all of those items together, right? But the thing I didn't focus on, I said two things: maternity leave and postpartum. For maternity leave, I didn't realize the impact of me being home at the time I worked, and up until I delivered. And so then I was off for, 6 weeks, maybe 9 weeks, however many weeks I was off, and it wasn't planned for. So we just made ends meet. We just made it work. We were newly married, and so we just made it work. But it was a struggle, and it didn't have to be if I knew, like, if someone had told me, girl, you need to prepare. Make sure you set aside, even if it's a small amount, to not just, you know, be off with the baby, but will everything be covered, and will the needs of the household still be able to be met and function while you're not physically able to get back into the work environment. And so that's something to consider. I would also, the twofold of that, the postpartum, I would plan for my postpartum differently, because I would make sure that I focus on what I needed for recovery as well. Maybe I did. I don't necessarily remember doing that because everything felt so hard, and there was no framework for me to follow. There was nothing for me to really understand, um, outside of, like, I needed nursing bras, or you know I needed to make sure I had an extra stash of sanitary napkins. Like, that was about the extent. Everything else was more or less focused around the baby. Toiletries, for myself for after I deliver and things like that, a coming home outfit. Like, all of that I had, but my home was not prepared. Like, I yeah, it's just, you want to prepare for yourself, your home, and the baby, not just the baby. So I would definitely keep that in mind as well. Number two, again, is preparing for my maternity leave slash postpartum, um, financially, and putting away savings for that, as well as, what ideally would be the best type of recovery I can plan for myself, and then plan for that. So that is number two. Number three, the very last one is, and I've spoken about this in other videos as well. Um, I would absolutely utilize help and support. I would identify who my pillars would be during that time. the time of birth and postpartum, like that is so fundamentally important. And the reason why I stress this is um for me, it is hard sometimes to ask for help. And if you're anything like that, then you may really struggle with asking for the support that you'll need in postpartum. But I am here to emphatically encourage you to not, shy away from any available support might that you might be able to utilize during your postpartum. That is so important. It will help a ton. Um, Looking back now, if I had to do it over again, I would absolutely, utilize my friend circle more. I think I did maybe a little bit, but even that is questionable because I can't really, yeah, I know I didn't utilize them to the fullest extent that I could have. So I would definitely utilize my friend group, inner circle. We attend a very loving church, and we have, people in our church family that looking back now, I could have identified as people that would be willing to support us during that time. I didn't reach out to them, and so it was minimal. It was minimal. Co-workers at the time, that would have been um useful and helpful to us during that time. I didn't utilize them. I mean, there are different, if you're part of, any fraternity, or I'm sorry, sororities or anything like that, you could absolutely reach out to sorority sisters to help during that time. Or if you volunteer with organizations, other people that you volunteer with are often very, very open to helping each other because you have that like-mindedness, that caringness that you both share. And so these are all things that I was too shy, to withdrawn to really utilize, and I paid the price for it. The price that I paid for it was being very overwhelmed, um very, just, I felt like things were unhinged, if I had to use a word. It was getting done, but not with the clarity and with the seamlessness that it could have been handled with. It instead was very, sporadic and just kind of, yeah, it was it was tough. So, with that being said, you know, if I could go back, the three lessons that I wish I would have learned, that I shout from the rooftops to try and teach others about, is number one, find a trusted resource that you trust and consume whatever they have available knowledge wise to learn as much as you can about childbirth, birth prep, and breastfeeding, or lactation, as it's often referred to as well. Those are the three pillars of Birth Prep Academy. That is what we do. So I welcome you to this community if you haven't already found one. But, wherever you go, just make sure that you consume that information. It will it will set you apart from every other mom out there, because most first time moms just don't know this. So definitely get the education. Don't forget to prepare for your maternity leave slash postpartum, um, financial wise, to just make sure that you're able to cover for the time that you will not be working if you are currently working now. And then also, make sure you prepare not just for the baby, but for yourself as well, is super, super important, because you want to be able to have that rest and recovery. It's so important. It's hard. One of the biggest lessons you'll learn as a mom is that it's just almost impossible to show up for your children when you are deprived yourself. And so having that rest and recovery time is going to be key. And preparing for it ahead of time is going to be the trick, the thing that will unlock it to really help you to transition into motherhood. The last and final thing is to just make sure that you utilize the support around you that is available so that you can, um, have that village, right, to really help you during a time when it's just going to be hard for you to do a lot of your regular scheduled things, especially at the same pace at which you are probably used to doing them. So make sure that you utilize this information because, y'all, it's for real. It seems maybe very basic or obvious, but you just don't know until you get into that situation and you have to really work to try and play catch up, right? To try and get everything going. And while you're learning your baby, while you're recovering from pregnancy, so and delivery. So definitely make sure you do these things. If you like this content, please be sure to like this video, to follow or subscribe, depending on where you're watching. Until next time, bye.